Welcome to InSift channel. Right now, 1 billion people are struggling with stress. But while some of us shatter under pressure, others somehow manage to bend and come back even stronger. Is resilience a gift you're born with or a skill you can build? Today, we're cracking the code on the secrets of inner strength. You know, it feels like we're living in a world that's just constantly in crisis, right? And in the middle of all that, we're all looking for the same thing. This deep inner strength to get us through. But what even is that? And is it something you can build? Let's get into it. And look, this isn't just some abstract idea. Get this. Right now, people all over the world are struggling with stress-related illnesses, and that number, it's climbing. It's this quiet epidemic that's affecting almost every single one of us in some way. It's as if the earth is opening up and sucking your whole soul away. That's a mother describing the exact moment she found out her teenage son Freddie was gone. He and his friend Luca died in a horrible, tragic accident. And their family stories, they really bring home just how high the stakes are in this search for what keeps us standing when our whole world falls apart. And that right there, that's the central mystery we're diving into today. What is it that causes some people to just shatter under that kind of pressure, while others, they somehow manage to bend and sometimes even come back stronger? Well, that ability has a name. It's called resilience, and we are going to investigate its secrets. All right, so our first stop on this investigation is inside the human body itself. We're going looking for biological clues, trying to crack the code of our own internal wiring to figure out why we react to stress the way we do. So, whenever you feel stressed out, it is not just all in your head. Not at all. There's this incredibly complex, totally automated system called the HPA Axis that just roars to life. You can think of it as your body's personal built-in emergency alarm system, and you can see exactly how this works. It's like a domino effect, a chain reaction. First, your brain spots a threat and zaps a signal to a little area called the hypothalamus. Then the hypothalamus pokes the pituitary gland, which then tells your adrenal glands to pump out the main event, our #1 stress hormone, cortisol. That's the stuff that floods your system with energy for that classic fight-or-flight response. Okay, so normally this whole system is great. The danger passes, your cortisol levels drop, and everything goes back to normal. But for some people, it's like that off switch is jammed. The alarm just keeps blaring and blaring long after the emergency is over. So the real question is, what's breaking the switch? Well, scientists have found a major clue, and it has to do with this one little gene called FKBP5. In a typical system, receptors in your cells basically tell the brain, okay, we're good. We have enough cortisol. You can stand down now. But a super common version of this gene creates an enzyme that literally blocks that message. The brain never gets the all-clear signal, so you just stay stuck in high alert mode. All right, so we've got the biological hardware, right? Our genes. But that's only one piece of the puzzle. Now we've got to look at our psychological software. You know, the mindset, the beliefs that actually shape how we experience the world. To really dig into this, researchers came up with this pretty brilliant experiment involving mice. So, after being stressed out again and again by a bigger, more aggressive mouse, some of the smaller mice started acting, well, fearless. They'd just walk right up to the bully mouse. But that made the scientists ask a really interesting question. Is that real resilience? Or is it just being reckless? And the answer, which came from a second test, was really surprising. As you can see in the table, the truly resilient mice were not the so-called fearless ones. No, they were the ones who could correctly tell the difference between a real threat and a safe situation. They were smart enough to keep their distance from danger, but they didn't let that fear paralyze them from exploring when things were safe. And this is so important. Resilience isn't about not having fear. It's about being able to assess risk correctly. This next idea is best explained with a really powerful story from the writer Jorge Bucay. It perfectly captures one of the biggest psychological roadblocks to being resilient. Picture this: a tiny baby elephant at a circus. It's tied by a chain to a little wooden peg stuck in the ground. Now, as a baby, it's just not strong enough to pull the peg out. It tries, it pulls, and it struggles, but nothing happens. And after trying and failing day after day, it learns this really powerful lesson deep down inside. I can't do it. It's impossible. Now, fast forward a few years. That elephant is huge, powerful, magnificent. It could snap that chain or yank that little peg out of the ground without even thinking about it. But it never does. It doesn't even try. Why? Because that lesson it learned as a baby is still stuck in its head. It believes it's powerless, and so it is. That elephant story is the perfect illustration of something psychologists call learned helplessness. It's this mental state where, because we've experienced a lack of control over and over, we just give up. We stop trying to change things, even when we actually have the power to do it. And what this teaches us is that the feeling of control, the belief that your actions matter, that is absolutely essential for resilience. So, we've got our biology, we've got our mindset. But how do they talk to each other? And more importantly, can we actually change our own programming? This is where the science gets really exciting. The answer is in this absolutely game-changing field of science called epigenetics. I mean, this is the science that basically proves our genes are not our destiny. It shows that our life experiences, our environment, our relationships can literally add another layer of instructions on top of our DNA and change how our genes actually behave. The easiest way to wrap your head around this is to think of them like tiny chemical caps that can sit on top of your genes. It's a process called methylation, and it's pretty simple. If a cap is on a gene, that gene gets silenced, kind of put to sleep. If the cap gets taken off, the gene wakes up and becomes active. And what puts the caps on and takes them off? Life. Our experiences. Okay, let's look at a real-world example. There's a gene called MAOA. It produces an enzyme that some researchers have nicknamed the happiness eater because it breaks down those feel-good chemicals like serotonin. So, as you can see, when good things happen in life, they can put a cap on that gene. That means less of the happiness eater enzyme gets made, and you become more resilient. But stressful or traumatic events can knock that cap right off, turning the gene on and putting you at a higher risk. And it turns out there's a really critical window when this programming is most intense, from the last few weeks of pregnancy all the way through the first 1,000 days of a child's life. The environment a baby is in during that time is literally sculpting their brain and tuning their stress response systems for the rest of their lives. It's why supporting new mothers and young children is one of the most powerful things we can do to build a resilient society. So, what does all of this tell us? Well, for one, resilience is not some kind of magical trait you're either born with or you're not. It's this dynamic, ongoing dance between our genes, our thoughts, and our environment. And the best part? It's a skill that we can practice and get better at all through our lives. And the great news is the research gives us some really clear, practical things we can all do to build it up. Actively remember your successes. I mean, really focus on what you've accomplished, even the small stuff. Stay active. Action is the best antidote to feeling helpless. Work on that positive assessment, the belief that you can handle what's coming and that things will get better. Always remember what you have control over. You can't control the event, but you can control your reaction to it. And you know, maybe that's the biggest secret of all. Resilience isn't about being bulletproof. It isn't about never feeling pain. It's messy. It's a process. It's about getting through the worst things without completely losing who you are. It's like the pioneer of resilience research, Boris Cyrulnik, said, "It's never perfect. Not for anyone, not for you, not for me." And just knowing that, well, that's a pretty resilient thing itself. Resilience isn't about being perfect. It's about staying you when life gets messy. Take one small win today, and I'll see you in the next video brought by InSift. Stay strong, and thanks for being part of this journey. See you next time.